Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Inshallah, everything is going well for everyone for Ramadan. We're in the home stretch. And today, that is actually going to be the topic that I'm covering, what we can do in the last 10 days of Ramadan. I have a small list of things to cover, and if you have any questions, feel free to pop in the comments, and I'll try to address them, though sometimes they scroll kind of fast and I can't keep up. Um, before you submit your questions, if you do have any, just remember that I'm not an Islamic scholar. I just do some research on these topics and try and present them to the best of my ability. So if you have any questions that require scholarly advice, please submit them to the About Islam website. So everyone knows, of course, about Laylatul Qadr, which is sometime in the last 10 days of Ramadan, most likely on an odd day. There's one narration that specifically mentions the 27th day of Ramadan, so we're not 100% sure, but definitely sometime within the last 10 days. That's a pretty common thing. In fact, if you go to your Google search bar and enter last 10 days of Ramadan, you're going to find a bunch of stuff about Laylatul Qadr. So I'm not going to go into that very much. It's pretty well known that the night of Laylatul Qadr is extremely important, and if you're going to spend one night of prayer in Ramadan, it should be that day. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, just because there's such a wealth of information out there. So I think it's going to be a better way to spend my time to talk about a couple other things that might be less talked about. So firstly, if you're like me and you set goals for yourself and you start falling behind on the goals and you're a perfectionist, then once you start falling behind, you just give up. And I think that this is something that doesn't only affect me, I think it affects a lot of people. And I know that oftentimes I've set these lofty goals for myself, like, okay, I'm going to get the entire Quran during Ramadan, or I'm going to, spend X amount of minutes or hours praying every day, and then like I miss it for one day or 2 days, or I can't, I don't have the time or whatever it is, and then I'm just like, forget it. So if you're like me and you do that kind of thing, I encourage you to make use of these last 10 days. Just because you didn't succeed in your lofty goal does not mean that it's too late. Allah is always here, so it's never too late. But if you want to take advantage of these last 10 days of Ramadan, this is a perfect time. I encourage you to set realistic goals for yourself. That's something that I've had to learn the hard way. Try to read, one page of Quran every day, or even just one verse. Set your goals as realistic as possible. Read a little bit of Quran every day, make dua, just anything. Any act of worship is, it's all seen by Allah. So just because you may have fallen behind, like I dare to guess that many, if not most people watching this have, there's no reason to just give up and stop focusing on worship. Don't hold yourself to a standard of perfection that's not realistic ever. So don't feel bad, don't beat yourself up. Push yourself to do as much as you can, but don't push yourself so hard that if you start falling behind, you're going to give up and just forget it. All right. So try and renew your intentions and focus on connection with Allah, using whatever method works for you, whether that's spending some extra time making dua after you pray, whether that's wishing blessings on the Prophet, just whatever makes your heart feel close to Allah. This is the best time of year to be doing that. Obviously, of course, we should do that all year round, but this is the very best time of year. There's nothing wrong. Again, I'm going to say this 100 million times. There's nothing wrong with starting now. Even if you've done nothing all month, start now and just do as much as you can. Don't let the blessings of this month pass by, even if you didn't do nearly as much as you would have liked. Start now, because something is better than nothing. That's something that I have struggled with myself. I've always been a very all or nothing type of person, but that just leads to failure. It really does. Don't hold yourself to too high of a standard. Start your small acts of worship now. All right. So another thing I want to talk about is more of the basic self-centered sort of things. So remember that even taking care of yourself and your body is an act of worship. So I'm not trying to dismiss that. But during Ramadan, we focus on food. I mean, it is. I think I mentioned this in the last video I did. This is a scientific inevitability. When your body is deprived of something that is a necessity, your brain tends to focus on it. So if you think a lot about food, it's okay. That is naturally what your brain is programmed to do. That doesn't mean you should lose focus on other things, but just keep that in mind. However, when we focus on food all the time, then by the end of the day we're so fixated on it we tend to gorge ourselves. And I have talked about this already, I think in 2 previous videos, but it's so important I'm going to keep going over it again and again. Even if you have slipped up and you've indulged in too many fried foods or sweets at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that you have failed. It doesn't mean that it's too late to start eating healthy. You don't want to carry these habits over into after Ramadan. Your body naturally craves sugar and fat. It's something that's programmed into us because it's necessary for survival. But in this modern world that we live in, when sugar and fat is so abundant, it kind of gets away from us because our body craves it. We just keep eating it to ourselves. So it is natural to crave these things, but we also are human beings. We have free will. We have self-control. Doesn't always feel like it, but we do have self-control. So try now in these last days to start weaning yourself off. If you're like me, you're never going to completely give up sweets. The day that someone tries to tell me to stop eating chocolate is probably their last day, because I don't think I can take that. So I get that, but try and cut back. Like I said, we have all these cravings, in particular during Ramadan, because like I said, our body is deprived. But if we get in the habit of eating these fats and sugars all the time, that's not something that's just going to go away because Ramadan is over. We're going to carry this bad eating habits over into the rest of the year. So even if you've been eating badly during Ramadan, now's the time to start cutting back. And remember that taking care of your body is an act of worship. It's the only body that Allah has given us. And so it's our duty as Muslims, as human beings, to take care of it. And that is an act of worship itself. I'm sure, I said this again in my last video, but it is the running joke, right, that non-Muslims say to us, like, oh, you're so lucky, you get a month where you don't eat, you're going to lose weight. And Muslims just laugh at them because we tend to gain weight because of these bad eating habits during Ramadan. Now, weight gain in and of itself is not an inherently bad thing. That's something that has been programmed into us with culture. I think that's something that stretches across many cultures, is these beauty standards that says weight gain is bad, full stop. But that's not true. What is bad is again, just going back to those bad habits. If you've gained weight because you've been breaking your fast with fat and sugar and oily foods and too many carbs, which I've definitely done a few times during Ramadan. Okay, I'm not going to pretend I haven't done that. If that's why you're gaining weight, then that's unhealthy. That's not healthy weight gain. So again, try and cut back. It's going to be easier now than later. When after Ramadan's over, you're free to have as much sugar and oily foods all day long, and you don't want that to become your standard. So again, try and adjust your eating habits now. It's going to be easier, inshallah. And those of us have probably fallen off the exercise train. I know I have. I walked a couple times on my treadmill, and it was just, even walking is hard. But try and get up and move around for about even 3 to 5 minutes every hour. Take care of yourself. Take care of your body. You don't need to push yourself. And this is advice that lasts all through Ramadan. But again, I'm just talking about reestablishing some good habits as the month comes to a close. Because it's easier to just kind of wean yourself off the bad and onto the good rather than try and like slam yourself with it at the end of the month. And it's going to be a lot easier to handle it that way. So, recap really quickly before I move on to my next big topic, which is, I think, is going to take the majority of my talk. So, my overarching theme so far: if you have fallen into bad habits, or you haven't been engaging in all the worship that you want to, it's not too late to start now. Don't set unrealistic goals for yourself. I mentioned this in the beginning about reading Quran and spending the night in prayer and everything. But this also goes for the eating habits as well. Like, I don't think it's realistic to say, okay, like no more samosas for the rest of Ramadan. Like, who doesn't love samosa? Or as others call it, sambusa. This is a very a hot topic of discussion in my house, the correct pronunciation of it. And so it would be unrealistic to just like cut yourself off completely. So again, not too late to start getting some good habits and dropping some bad. That was kind of the overarching theme what I've talked about so far. Renew your intentions. And again, this can go for the more blatant acts of worship, and also for the things like taking care of yourself. Renew your intentions. Try and focus on pleasing Allah. Remember that pleasing Allah is something that stretches into every aspect of our life. Anytime you're doing something with the intention of pleasing Allah, it is an act of worship, and it's good to get in that mindset now during Ramadan. Make the most of these last days. Try and get into that healthy mindset where you just remember that everything that you do with the right intentions is an act of worship. And if you try and get yourself into that mindset now, it will be easier to maintain as time goes on. So there's one more big topic I want to cover, and then I'll get to the last thing. So the last 10 days of Ramadan can particularly be tricky for women who are on their period. So both this page about Islam and I don't remember, I think it was Muslim Matters, both published some articles about what women who are menstruating can do to maximize worship in these last few months. And some of you might be thinking, you can't do active worship when you're on your period. That's not allowed. That's not true. There are certain ritualized acts of worship that are prohibited, but there's also some really bad misinformation out there that says things like you can't even say the name of Allah, or you can't even make dua, or something like that. That is absolutely not true. Fasting, obviously, and then our 5 daily prayers. Those are things that we women don't do when we're on our period. So, but pretty much everything else is open to you. I mean, there is a bit of there are some differences of opinion on whether you're allowed to touch Quran when you're menstruating. I've heard both sides. I'm not taking any side right now. If you believe it is not allowed to touch Quran, then listen. It is not forbidden for you to listen to Quran when you are on your period. And I challenge anyone to go ahead and drop something in the comments and prove me wrong. Listen to recitation, and this is a great thing, listening to recitation or even listening to Islamic lectures is a great thing to do because you can do it while you're doing other things. So, a lot of women, and this isn't okay, but a lot of women are tasked with food preparation. That is, I want everyone to remember, especially the brothers, that it is sunnah for a man to feed his wife. Okay, and the Prophet never made his wives uh, forced his wives to prepare the food. There's no indication that is a woman's domain. Prove me wrong. So anyway, a lot of women are tasked with that, whether because men don't understand that men can cook too, or because maybe you're just a better cook in the house. Either way, you can be doing these tasks and, listening to Quran or listening to a lecture. These are things that you can do at any time, no matter whether you're menstruating or not, no matter whether you're fasting or not, no matter what state you're in. These are things that you can do, and they're acts of worship. It's not like when you're on your period, you stop worshiping Allah. That is not the case. I believe in the article that About Islam posted, there was a quote from a particular scholar, I'm sorry, I don't remember who, that said that the act of abstaining from prayer and fasting when you're on your period is an act of worship itself because it is in obedience to Allah. So even rather than, it's hard to get yourself into the mental place where you don't feel left out, but try and focus yourself rather on that you may be left out of engaging in in praying or fasting, or the prayers at the mosque, or whatever it is that you feel like might be missing out on. By not doing those things, you are in obedience to Allah, and that in itself is, again, that's an act of worship. You're getting rewarded for that, inshallah. So keep that perspective in mind. I know that, when all the excitement of Ramadan is going on around you, it can be difficult to not feel left out of that, but try and just get that into your frame of mind, like that you're being rewarded for actually not doing those things, inshallah. And I like to mention this because it's something that really helps me feel connected with Allah, and that's dhikr. So that's remembrance of Allah. There is, to my knowledge, no set way that it has to be done. I believe there are some people who think it has to be done in a particular certain way, but I've never seen any evidence. One of my favorite things to say in remembrance of Allah is La ilaha illallah, because there is no God but Allah. That is the core of Islam. That is what drew me to Islam. La ilaha illallah is one of the most, if not the most important thing about our religion. So saying it and repeating it just makes me feel so close to Allah. So that's one thing that I like to do, and you can do that when you're on your period. There's nothing wrong with that. I believe also in the article posted by About Islam, there was a suggestion by a scholar. Again, I don't remember who, but it was an article that was not posted that long ago on this page. So maybe, inshallah, you can find it by searching the page. What the scholar suggested was, wash up for prayer. When you're on your period, wash up for prayer. And rather than doing the ritualized salah that we do something else that is an act of worship. Wash up as though you're going to pray, and then spend, 5 to 10 minutes or however long you would usually take doing something else that connects you with Allah. And I think that is an amazing suggestion. I had never thought of that before, and I think that's great, because you don't want to get out of the habit. It can be a difficult habit to establish, to get all your prayers done promptly and on time. Like, let's be real. It's a difficult thing to do. It's not like Allah is standing there over our shoulder going like, hey, it's time to pray. I mean, that the sort of abstractness of the concept of Allah, or the concept of a God, is what makes it difficult to remember to pray sometimes. And that's something that each of us should work on, but it's a simple truth. So when you have that, however many days a month where you're not engaging in that ritual it can be difficult to reestablish it. And then you just do it again every month. And, that can kind of be a drag. To have to reestablish that habit every single month. I know that's something that I struggle with. Sometimes it's like almost opposite, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I haven't prayed over yet. I've got like 3 minutes, and it's not because I'm being lazy or like negligent. It's just I'm out of the habit. So I think it's a terrific idea, not only in the last 10 days of Ramadan, but again, we're talking about establishing good habits. To start doing that, start reciting the name of Allah or wishing blessings upon the Prophet, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, etc., etc., etc. Just anything that helps you feel connected with your faith. I'm going to start doing that, inshallah. I just read that piece of advice just this morning, in fact, and I just think it's terrific. So, inshallah, I'm going to start doing that as well. And I encourage all my sisters to try doing that, especially if it's something that you struggle with, to, reestablish the ritual, the routine of prayer at the, every single month. It can be something that's difficult to do. So, and now before I move on to my last topic, I'm going to sum up this one more time. So we just spent a few minutes talking about, being on your period during Ramadan. It can be difficult to feel a little bit disconnected, but there are lots of acts of worship that you can do to be connected to Allah during that time. Trying to connect with your faith and with your Lord is not something that is forbidden. The things that are forbidden when you're praying are very small and limited. No sex, no fasting, no salah. And then of course there's the difference of opinion about whether or not you can touch the Quran. Some say you can't, some say you can't. Again, I'm not taking sides. So those things are very limited. Anything else is fine. If Allah hasn't said you can't do it, then generally speaking, you can. So, try and set aside that time to engage in active worship. And I know I said this already, but I'm just kind of recapping for people who might be joining us in the middle. Obviously, this is something that you can implement at any time, but with Shaitan being changed during this month and not having the whispers in our ear, it's a great time to try and establish these habits and get into these habits. It's easier to establish the habits during Ramadan than any other time of the year. So that is what I've just talked about. And then the last, and I think this is a logical last topic to cover, is if nothing else, then start thinking about your Eid plan. Yay! This is something that has been occupying a lot of my brain space. In fact, I forgot to get presents for my kids, and so a friend of mine was like, "Hey, what are you getting your kids for Eid presents?" Oh yeah, I should do that. So start thinking about what you're going to do. And this is where I'm going to give my typical shout out to the converts, especially those of you who may be alone. If you're a convert and if you've gone through most of Ramadan alone, God bless you that it's difficult. It is. I myself find it so much easier to fast when I have other people around me who are doing it. So if you've gone through it alone without any support system, then mashallah, God bless you. That is incredible. That is a difficult thing to do, and may Allah reward you for it abundantly. It's so hard when the only person to hold you accountable is yourself. That is a difficult thing. So that's amazing. And Eid can be another really difficult time for converts, especially if you don't have other Muslim friends or you don't have a support system or anything like that. I know that I am not comfortable going to new places alone. So I, like when I give the advice, reach out to your um, your local community, I kind of feel like a hypocrite because I wouldn't take that advice myself. But not everyone has my personality, obviously. So if that's something that you're comfortable with, if you feel like you can reach out to your local community and see what activities are going on, mashallah, in North America and I presume in Europe as well, and a lot of Western countries, the mosque isn't just a place to go to pray. It serves as a community center. So almost all of them have some sort of Eid activity going on. Um, Sometimes you have to pay for them, hopefully a reasonable price, inshallah. Um, if that's something that you're comfortable doing, then I really encourage you to do that. You might meet some new people. I always just assume that everyone's like me and they're not like really good at introducing themselves, and so that like sounds like a nightmare to me. Um, but for those of you who are more outgoing, then absolutely go for it. Reach out to your community, see what activities are going on. A lot of them have fairs or Eid breakfast, or I know one mosque near me is doing Eid breakfast and dinner. So there's a lot going on. If you're more like me and you are on the introverted side and reaching out to someone sounds intimidating and daunting, I encourage you to treat yourself to a day alone. Now, if I have my family, alhamdulillah, but if I were alone, that's something that I would actually really enjoy doing, like going out to breakfast by myself. I know some people think that's weird to go and sit by yourself at a restaurant, but like for me, that's like I'm in heaven, So, go out, treat yourself to breakfast. Take a day off work if you can afford it, or a half day, or whatever you can manage, or even after work, go out to dinner or order something, watch a movie, do something to enjoy yourself, but treat yourself to something special that day. And buy yourself some new clothes or wear something nice and fresh. I do believe that's sunnah. So that's something that I always like to do for myself and my family. Just get a little something new. You feel kind of refreshed, and there's something that's pretty and new that you've never worn before. So treat yourself. If you're more of a recluse like I am, then treat yourself. And if you are an incredibly fortunate person like me, alhamdulillah, and you're a convert and you have family that's supportive, see if they'd like to be included in your Eid festivities. My husband and I went out and got our kids Eid presents yesterday, and I thought, like, why don't I include my niece in this? They include us in Christmas. They give my kids presents. Why shouldn't I give my niece something for Eid? So I got her a little basket, and I'm filling it up with goodies. So if you're incredibly, incredibly fortunate and blessed to have a supportive or open-minded family, see if they would want to do something. Maybe come over and cook out in the backyard or whatever it may be, depending on the weather, obviously. Just get together and spend some time with your family. If you don't have other Muslims to spend Eid with, you're not forbidden from seeing your own non-Muslim family. There's no evidence of that I've ever seen. You can be with non-Muslims on Eid. So try, whether you want to be with other Muslims that you don't know if that's your jam, or you want to be alone, or if you can be with your family, just whatever you can do to try and make the day special for yourself. I encourage you to do that. Ramadan and the two Eids can be very difficult for new Muslims or converts who don't have a support system. And so if you're not a convert, or if you're fortunate enough to have a support system around you and you know that there are some converts, whether or not if they have people, like just reach out and say like, hey, do you want to hang out with us on Eid? If they have, a family, or if they've got other plans, then it's fine. They'll say, oh no, I've got plans. But you never know, like that's an act of charity to reach such kindness out to someone who might be sad for being alone. and you never know what kind of blessings might follow. So, you know, if you've been Muslim for a long time, if you're not a convert, if you have a support system, please do reach out to other people, and try and extend a hand of kindness to them in a time that might be really difficult. So that wraps up the 30 minutes. I hope, inshallah, this was beneficial to someone, some of you out there. Thank you to everyone who was watching, and I was seeing lots of likes scrolling by. For some reason, the comments weren't scrolling by on my computer screen as I was doing this. I apologize, but it doesn't look like I missed any questions. So, okay. So that is it for today, inshallah. I hope everyone is having a blessed Ramadan, and just, again, do your best, do whatever you can to make the most of these last 2 days. Assalamu alaikum.